Let's talk to former MP for Lichfield, who is, of course, the one and only Mr. Michael Fabricant. Michael, very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Mike.
Now, who knew that so freshly into the first month of government that Rachel Reeves would be vying with Suella Braverman for the title of cruelest woman in politics?
Yeah, it's quite amazing, isn't it? And it's just so blatant. I mean, all the promises that were made during the election campaign just being broken because, suddenly she seems to have found a £20 billion black hole. Well, of course there's a £20 billion black hole because she's paying every single pay demand that her trade union masters and paymasters demand of her. I mean, if they take over and nationalise British Rail, it'll be back to the 70s again, where you've got militant trade unions saying, we're going to be blocking every single train journey unless you pay us exorbitant pay rises. It'll be inflationary. And, you know, talk about problems with pensioners not getting their winter fuel supplement. Inflation is the worst killer, and this is what it's leading to.
Right, of course. And the problem will be that paying out money to the public service unions, the public sector unions, isn't going to get her out of the hole because the BMA have already said we're going to recommend this 22% pay rise to the junior doctors, but it's a good start. It's not where it's going to end. It's where we're going to start again. So there's going to be more negotiations. Meanwhile, GPs are threatening to go on strike, thanks to the BMA's ballot. So, you know, appeasement for these people is not really the way forward, is it?
No, it is certainly not. You'd have thought they would have learned from all the industrial strife of the 70s and the 80s under Labour, and they're going down the same path again. All the unions will be demanding money, and as I said, it'll just put up inflation again. And it's so cruel because, you know, for all that they sort of criticise how we left the economy, actually we ended up with the lowest inflation rate in Europe. We've ended up with the biggest growth rate in Europe, and the economy was going great guns, which, by the way, begs the questions. I don't know why we had the general election in July. We should have left it till later in the year, but that's a different issue.
Yeah, well, that is a different issue. We'll come back to why you're backing somebody that you want to be the new leader. But before we do that, we've got something to show you. And this is Keir Starmer talking about how good Labour were going to be to pensioners back in April.
I went to Dewsbury winter before last, in the height of the energy prices going up, and spoke to an 84-year-old woman, worked all her life, obviously now a pensioner, and she told me that she doesn't get out of bed till midday because she didn't want to turn the heating on.
Yeah, it's awful.
And then when she did get out of bed, she had this sort of thermal jacket that she just wore all day long, so she didn't have to put the heating up very high. That's an awful position to put a pensioner in. And there are just too many of those stories. Another pensioner, it was actually, we had a group of them in Dewsbury, was describing to me going around the supermarket and picking something up and looking at the price and then putting it back on the shelf. And now you could say, well, okay, that's not the biggest thing in the world.
Well, it is.
But actually it is when you just feel, after having worked all your life, I can't just have, you know, lead the life I want to lead now, or I can't do things I even did a year ago. That's the sense of insecurity, I think, that eats away at people.
Yeah, well, it's not going to get any less secure or any more secure, is it now?
Well, what a hypocrite he is, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. Of course, they're hoping that people will forget come the next general election in 4 or 5 years' time. But I don't think they will, and they shouldn't, because Starmer is a hypocrite, a liar.
Well, he put that statement out. He put that statement out on the 30th of April, right, under this caption: "My Labour Party will always be on the side of pensioners let down by the Tories." Oh, really?
It's remarkable. It's so blatant. He takes the electorate for fools. And no, they won't forget in 4 or 5 years' time, and nor should they.
No, quite. Now, you want to back Mr. Robert Jenrick to be the next leader of the Tory party. I think we've got a little clip of him to show you.
Why have we just suffered our worst ever defeat? And that tough question leads to a deeper one about where our country is right now. Over the past few decades, a series of complex and interlocking challenges have steadily built up here and across the West. Our economy has been growing too slowly, and as growth has fallen, Taxes have risen, but despite having more of our money than ever, too much of the state is not working. Our NHS has a fifth more money, doctors and nurses than it did 5 years ago, but isn't treating any more people. The hard truth is that we lost this election because we failed to tackle these challenges. I will unite us around the actual solutions to the challenges we face. That's why I'm standing to be leader of our party.
Has he got what it takes, Michael?
Well, I think he does. I've known Rob for 10, 12 years. He's a very honourable, decent guy. But more than that, he actually does, as he says, come up with practical solutions. He's also got a lot of integrity. You know, he was immigration minister. And when he felt that, you know what, the plans being put forward by the Home Office are just not going to work, we'll still have people being stopped from being sent back to Rwanda. And, you know, Rwanda was a deterrent. You just ask the Irish about the number of migrants in England who've moved across the island because they didn't want to be deported. And, of course, Starmer, of course, has stopped the whole programme. But the point about integrity is that Rob then left the government. He said, you know what, this is not going to work. I'm not going to pretend it works. And I'm going to leave unless you make more changes to the Immigration Act, which overrule any other court outside the United Kingdom, which tells us to stop sending people abroad. We've got to send illegal migrants back. Very few of them come from countries which, you know, they would face the death penalty if they were returned. Most of them are economic migrants. Some of them will come here and give added value, but many of them will not give us added value. And we all know how difficult it is to get a hospital appointment, to get to see a GP and so on and so forth. The population of the UK has risen too fast with people, as I say, who aren't actually giving money to this nation by adding expertise. So, yeah, I just think Rob, you know, he's a reasonable guy. He's not the sort of person who's divisive. And I just believe that he will come up with the solutions that this country needs so desperately.
OK. Michael, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Michael Fabricant, former MP for Lichfield.